appreciate the kind introduction. It's really, really a pleasure to be here. There's so much we could talk about, and there's really a limit to our concentration power today, especially today. In my day, they used to say it was a half hour. Today they say it's maybe a half a second, maybe a half a minute. So we have to be brief, but try to have a couple of thoughts that may be helpful and maybe of interest. We're a few weeks closing in on Shavuos. Shavuos represents the most significant event in all of human history. Creation, of course. Without creation, we wouldn't be here. But Shavuos represents the moment when the Creator Himself informed us about why He created us, what we're here for, what's it all about, what's the purpose of life. Now, that is really far more significant than anybody may realize, and allow me to explain. What is it that universally, everybody in this world wants more than anything else? Okay, let's go down. Money, this, that. What is it really? Come on.
Happiness.
What?
Happiness.
Happiness. It's universal. Everybody wants to be happy. Nobody wants to be rich and miserable. Nobody wants to be healthy and miserable. Everyone wants to be happy. If I'm happy, that's now. So everyone wants to be happy. I am confident that today, in this country and around the world, more money is spent on the pursuit of happiness than anything else. Books, seminars, therapy, whatever. More money is spent on happiness. Everybody wants to be happy. We're spending fortunes on it. We're working so hard to find happiness. Is the world a happy place? If you judge by any of the statistics or any of the rates, the suicide rate, the substance abuse rate, the rates that the mental health professionals can charge, this doesn't seem to be a very happy place. So here we are, pursuing happiness, more money spent on it than anything else in human history, maybe, and it's such an unhappy world we live in. Anybody know why? Why should that be? It doesn't make sense. I have a theory. I think it's pretty much on target. And that is because we don't know what happiness is. If you look for something and you don't know what you're looking for, you don't have a Chinaman's chance of finding it. What is happiness? What is happiness? More than that, worse than that. Our society has taught us an equation which is false. Do you know what the equation is? Pleasure equals happiness. Happiness equals pleasure. It's not true. We live in pleasure capitals all over the world, where pleasure is just a way of life. We're pleasurizing ourselves day and night, and yet not really happy. So, what's wrong? Pleasure doesn't equal happiness. We don't know what happiness is. We're pursuing happiness, and we're miserable. I have an idea I want to share with you. We're very privileged. All languages are man-made. This is a table because it's called by convention. People decided to call this a table. And this is a chair because people decide to call it a chair, and so forth. Everything is just convention. There's nothing meaningful in the name. Not so in the Lashon HaKodesh. The Lashon HaKodesh is the language of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the language with which Hashem created the world. In that language, every time there's a three-letter root, 3 letters in the aleph base together, in a word, it implants a meaning into that word. And every word in Lashon HaKodesh, not necessarily in modern Hebrew, a lot of the words from modern Hebrew are taken from English, but in Lashon HaKodesh, the language of the Tanakh, every 3-letter root implants that meaning, that significance in the word. There's a very high form of happiness in Lashon HaKodesh. David HaMelech said, Acha sho'alti be'es Hashem v'yiso avakesh, shivti be'es Hashem kol yemei chayai. He had only one wish. I want to sit in the house of Hashem. That's the ultimate wish that David HaMelech had. Do you know what David HaMelech said about one who sits in the house of Hashem? Ashrei yeshrei beisecho. Ashrei, Osher, Aleph Shin Reish is a Sheresh. You know what that Sheresh means? It means Ishur, validation. Happiness is feeling good about myself. Validation. If I feel good about myself, I'm happy. Very simple. We know that. If I feel good about myself, everything's fine. If I feel bad about myself, all the pleasures and all the money and all the outside stimuli and whatever I may have doesn't do anything for me, because at the end of the day I'm miserable because I don't feel good about myself. Pleasure doesn't make me feel good about myself. In fact, many pleasures make me feel bad about myself, if you know what I mean. It doesn't make you feel good about yourself. And even if it makes you feel good for a moment, or for a few moments, or for a few hours, it's all over. And then what? You know, I actually learned this lesson, just reminded myself of an ancient story. Not that old, but an ancient story. I was about 15 years old. Forgive me, rabbis. And I went with a friend. Maybe I was 14. At 15, maybe I stopped. I went to a movie. Went with a friend to a movie. The name of the movie was Vertigo. Alfred Hitchcock. You probably never heard of him. He was an insane movie producer who was a genius. The man used to he got on at the beginning of the film, and he talked to you, think he's nuts. But he had such brilliance in it. You're familiar with that? Yeah, such brilliance in his movies. This movie was called Vertigo. I don't remember what it was about, but I remember it was an experience that if I would have seen hands like this, my own hands, I would have thought someone was trying to jump me, because I was detached from my reality. It was the most thrilling experience. There was nothing like it. It was like, now, after that we went out, ice cream or something, I don't know, but then I went home. And I still remember today, 15 years old it was, I was 14 years old, that was many years ago. I was lying in bed, I still remember. My room was painted blue, remember that? Way back. Anyway, and I was thinking, now what? I wanted to see the movie again, but I can't go again because I know the ending. It's not going to do anything for me. But it was such an experience, and it's gone. Now what? I said, there must be more to life than this. It doesn't make sense. I had a similar experience many years later. I was in Miami, and someone introduced us it took us for lunch, I think it was, to a dairy restaurant called Sarah's. I don't know if it's around anymore, but anyway, Sarah's. And they introduced me to a drink, pina colada. I don't drink, I don't know what it's all about. Pina colada. And hey, not bad. I liked it. So a while later, we were in Marina del Rey, I think I remember, at a wedding, and they said, maybe I'll try a pina colada. They don't know how to make a pina colada like Sarah does. Then, someplace else, another simcha, a few months later, try again pina colada. No. Nobody makes pina colada like Sarah's. We did this a couple of times. And then, a few years later, I was back in Sarah's. Of course, the first thing I did without even looking at the menu was order pina colada. And I realized Sarah doesn't know how to make a pina colada. What's going on over here? It was the greatest pleasure. And now, this is very bullshit. The first time I have a pleasure, feels good. The next time, my senses are dulled. Because I had it already. It's not the first time, it's a thrill. After that, it's old news, I had it, and each time it reduces it. But worse than that, the memory, because the pleasure is over, and it wants to maintain the pleasure, because pleasures go and then we have nothing left, so it exaggerates the pleasure. So in my mind, I exaggerated the pleasure more than it was, and in reality, my taste buds have been, the sensitivity has been reduced, so I'm tasting less than it is. Keeps getting worse and worse. The memory exaggerates, the taste gets less. That's what pleasure's all about. It doesn't do it. And it didn't make me feel good about myself. Well, let's ask you a question. Let's say I walked into my therapist's office and I say, Doc, I have no purpose in living. I'm sure therapists hear that all the time. If you were a therapist, what would you do? Don't tell me assisted suicide. What would you do? You know what I would do? I would order a suicide watch. Because a person who feels he has no purpose has no point to live. The human being can't live without purpose. And my life has no fun, but the fun just diminishes. The pleasure, I gotta get more. And eventually what happens? Nothing. And it doesn't satisfy me. As soon as that otherworldly experience is over, as soon as I come down back to reality, I'm miserable. I feel worse because compared to how I felt, I feel terrible. And there's no point to the whole thing. And then I gotta do it again and again and again and again and find something more and more and more. I spend my whole life before I know I'm dead. And I have nothing to show for it. We need purpose. Without purpose, there's no point to life. No. It's hard to find purpose. Let me share with you some personal experiences. Not really, but let's pretend. You know why I come to Brooklyn occasionally? I have a business. I feel very good about my business. I raise a few $1,000,000 a year. I should say I pocket a few $1,000,000 a year on my business. I'm a cockroach eradicator. That's what I do. Cockroach eradicator. That's what I do. I feel good about myself. Make a couple of bucks, I make a lot of bucks. And that's my purpose. One day I wake up and I say, you know something? I look in the mirror. No, forget it. I don't want to look in the mirror. Forget that. But one day I wake up and I say, maybe I could do something more important. I'm not so stupid. And maybe with my brains I could use a little bit more and come up with something more meaningful, more beneficial to society. Something that's on a higher level. What? Where? What? Okay, I found something else. Now I'm going to eradicate mice, and then rats, and then I don't know what. But after a while I realized, what's my real purpose? What's my true purpose? Why was I put into this world? I don't know. So then I realized something. If I want to know the purpose of this little piece of technology, what do?
Read the manual.
Well, who said that? Beautiful, because today they don't say read the manual anymore. They say Google it, but I'm with you. I don't know how to Google anything. Anyway, so read the manual. The manual, and who produces the manual, by the way?
Manufacturer.
The manufacturer. So you have to consult with the manufacturer to find the purpose. I had a brilliant idea. I would like to consult with the manufacturer of my life to find out what my purpose is. Wow, genius. But you didn't know I was so smart. You thought I'm just a cockroach killer. I consult with, have a manual. Something. I couldn't find the manual. I Googled the manufacturer, nothing came up. I don't know what to do. What's the purpose of my life? Now, I suspected that to make such a world that we live in, with such complex things going on and human beings that are so great and so capable and so brilliant and so talented, and only a superhuman being could make such a creation. So I postulated, I figured, hey, there must be some creator, there must be some, they call it God, who created this world. But I didn't know where to find him. I talked to him. I went in a room and I screamed out to him, God, please answer me. Tell me why you created me. No answer. And then, one day, I had this light went off in my brain. I said, you know something? Maybe he communicated. Maybe there's a manual. And I just don't know where to find it. And I searched and I searched and I researched and I came up with the idea that, hey, there is a manual. 3,335 years ago, almost, the creator of the world, after having done the most amazing miracles in Mitzrayim, where people saw that he was actually the creator, he turned all of the laws of nature upside down, and he brought this nation, our ancestors actually, just happens to be, to this little mountain Sinai, and he spoke to them. And he said, I'm the one that took you out of Egypt, that did all of those miracles. He says, now I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to give you the purpose for which I created you. Wow, that's what I've been waiting for my whole life. Not only will I have to figure out what my purpose is, from cockroach to mice to rats to who knows what, but I really can know from the manufacturer himself what my purpose is. And he revealed that purpose at Har Sinai. But he did it in an amazing way. He did it in a way that could not be questioned because he revealed it in front of millions of people. Millions of eyewitnesses who had seen his miracles in Israel now heard him talking and telling them, hey, this is why. I'm telling you why I created you. I'm telling you why I took you out of Israel. I'm telling you the purpose of human existence. I'm giving you the formula to be happy because you can have your true purpose as given to you from the manufacturer himself, without any intermediary, without any confusion. Millions of eyewitnesses. Not only that, since the Klal Yisrael at the time were a little bit afraid to listen to the whole speech themselves, you know, even those days they had a limited concentration power. No, I shouldn't say that. That's just a bad joke. But anyway, so what happened? They said, let you speak to Moshe. Let Moshe talk to us. So Hashem wasn't going to let that happen just like that. So in front of all these millions of people, he says, I hereby duly appoint Moshe Rabbeinu as my teacher, as my spokesman, as my prophet. You'll hear how he speaks, how I speak to him, and then you will believe him forever. And everything that he teaches you in my name, you have my agreement, you have my signature, you have my approval that it is what I have taught him, and he is faithfully, based on my directives, teaching it to you. So everything we have, Torah Shebechsav, Torah Shebal Peh, everything we learn, it's all given to us from Hashem at Har Sinai, either directly, the psukim that we heard, Moshe Rabbeinu teaching, everything, all authorized publicly in front of millions of eyewitnesses by Hashem himself. And in this document, which describes the events that took place, it's written in a very special way. Because if it would say, the document, many years ago there was an event. Okay, let's do a little exercise. Would you mind pretending for a few moments that you're my son?
100%.
What? You don't mind?
I don't know.
Wow, that's interesting. I thought for sure you wouldn't want. Anyway, okay, you're my son. I wouldn't lie to my son, right? No. Okay, now, son, I want to tell you something.
That's not easy.
Okay. Anyway, good. Anyway, so I want to tell you something. On the way here, there were some miraculous events that took place. There was a spaceship came down with 4,000 little men with long pegas and tzitzis wearing streimlach, and they were dancing around in the middle of Flatbush Avenue, and it was unbelievable things were going on. Now, I wouldn't lie to you. What do you know?
That probably didn't happen.
Why I say probably? I wouldn't lie to you.
So unreasonable.
It's so unreasonable, but I wouldn't lie to you. But something else, you didn't pay enough attention. It's like that joke, you know the joke? Suppose you were a bus driver and 10 people got on and 5 people got off. People didn't say, what's the name of the bus driver? And people didn't pay attention. I didn't tell you that I saw it. I said it happened. So what do you know? So what do you know now?
That you didn't see it, someone else
No,
told you.
no, but what do you know if I said it happened? If I wouldn't lie to you, you know I believe it happened, but you can't be sure. Because maybe I'm making a mistake. But if I told you, I saw these events as I was on my way over here, I witnessed it all myself. Now what do you know? One of two things. Either it happened or it's been mashibid. Nuts in the head. Okay? One or the other. You probably choose the second one. I would say the first one's also a good option. And the Torah is written in such a way, it says, Atem re'isem ki min hashamayim dibarti emochem. You saw with your own eyes. So that first generation took a document and passed it on to their children. Eyewitness testimony. Not we believe that certain things took place. We saw it ourselves. And this is the very same document. I think you probably have a safe Torah here. Oh, today everything's behind the safe. We live in a different world. Anyway, the same document that we have hasn't been changed for over 3,300 years. Read identically when they read it from here, even if the Balkari just says a word wrong, they jump on it. And if there's a slight line in between one letter, just something acidic, put it away. Have to fix the Sefer Torah, we can't use it. This process has assured that we here today know our true purpose in life, as revealed to us by the manufacturer himself 3,300 years ago. And when I discovered this, and wow, now I can truly be happy because I know what my purpose is. And if I try to live to the best of my ability, according to my purpose, I have a formula for true happiness. It's real, it's lasting, it's so powerful and so meaningful. This is really what it's all about. I want to share with you a couple of other thoughts. I want to tell you two stories, and I want to ask you a question. Story number one. I spent many years in the Los Angeles area, in the San Fernando Valley. We made a yeshiva there. It was the most unlikely place in the world to make a yeshiva. Almost as unlikely as Brooklyn. No. Anyway, it was an unlikely place to make a yeshiva. It was whatever. We used to run away from Yiddishkeit to down to the San Fernando Valley. That was like the end, the last stop. After a couple of years, we had built up a nice yeshiva there. We had a small base medrash because we were always sending the graduates of the high school away to Israel, to New York, to learn. We didn't think Los Angeles or the Valley was a place for these yeshiva kids. Anyway, one summer, about 5 or 6 of the chevra were back. Graduates already who had been in yeshivas. And they were beautiful. They were in a Torah. It was really very beautiful. And they decided that they would consider staying for the year, learning in our base medrash. We had that small post-high school division. But on one condition, that I have to not only just give a shir every day, but I have to be in the base medrash the whole morning seder, so they could have someone to talk to when learning. They felt otherwise it was too small, it wouldn't work for them. I said I would love to agree. But 4 hours a day, prime time. I owed hundreds of thousands of dollars from previous years. I had to raise another few $100,000 and I have to teach in the high school here, there. I have so much to do. How can I give it four hours a day? I said, give me 24 hours. I don't like to make a rash decision. I'll tell you tomorrow. I go home, I ask my wife, what should I do? She says, it's a Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. Omer Reb Nechunya ben Hakona, the third parak. HaMekabel ol hoil Torah, ma'avir meno malchus ol derech eretz. If you accept the burden of Torah, like sitting in the Beis Medrash, the burden of Malchus, which to me was payroll taxes. Malchus means the government. The payroll taxes could kill you. When you have a high school, the English teachers, the Hebrew teachers, it's a lot of money. And derech eretz is making money. If you're a Kabbalah Torah, you don't have to worry about money. Oh, I'm a Kabbalah. Next morning, I went back to the Chevra. I said, Rosh Elul, a week from now, I'm in the Beis Medrash. That night, not Rosh Chodesh Elul when I came to the Beis Medrash, but there was Makabel. I told him, you got a deal. I met a man, used to be a student of ours years before. He said, my father wants to talk to you. Okay? So he has something he wants to talk to you about. I called up his father. He says, yeah, there's an old man. He's sick. He's dying, actually. He has no family. He lives in one of my apartments. He needs help to people to get him food, to clean up his apartment. He had all of his schayra for his business lying all over the floor. It was a terrible situation. Maybe you could send the yeshiva guys in and help him out a little bit. And fine, no problem, we did it. About a week or two later, he was already in the hospital. He was doing very poorly. And he wanted to write a will. And he left the yeshiva as the beneficiary of his will. He had no idea how much money he had. He lived in total poverty. Passed away Yud Zayin Elul, a couple of weeks after that. And when everything was figured out, he left the yeshiva $1 million. That's 40 years ago, over 40 years ago. That must be like 3 or 4 or 5 today, I don't know. The day that I was Mekabel, the old Torah, as the Mishnah says, the old Malchus and the old Derech Eretz was removed. I want to ask you a question, my son.
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. I want to ask you a question, but give me the right answer, make sure.
I'll try.
All right? Because the wrong answer is very bad over here. Okay? When Hashem taught that Mishnah to Moshe Rabbeinu at Har Sinai 3,335 years ago, okay? Did he have me in mind that 3,300 or however many years, or this was 40 years, whatever later, that I'm going to take advantage of that Mishnah and he's going to deliver for me and I'm going to have this miracle? Did he have me in mind, or was it just a general teaching? He says, hey, Moshe, teach this to them and whoever wants to use it can use it. What do you say?
He did. He had all the Jews, next generations in mind.
He has everything, because he has everything. He doesn't have a mind. He sees everything.
Right.
So it means it's a personal message from me.
Right.
Personal. When Hashem, think about that. When Hashem taught the Torah to Moshe Rabbeinu at Har Sinai, he had in mind, he says, Omer Reb Nechuni, he says, Reb Nechuni ben HaKol is going to say this over, HaMekabel ol Torah, Mavir ol Malchus ol Derech Eretz. I'm referring also, not only, to Shaya Cohen in 1980, whenever it was. Personal message. When I follow a directive of Torah, it's a personal message from Hashem to me. I want to ask you one more. Same question. And stick around, son, because I need you. Okay? I don't know if you need me, but I need you. Anyway, the kids are like this. So, it was February 1995. We were already in New York, and walks into my office a young man by the name of David Schenker. He had a program, JEP, Long Island. They used to get public school kids. They used to get kids from public school bring them to yeshivas. Fine. So he says, I need your help. He says his father is the next of kin to some relative, a cousin who passed away, and he's trying to get the money that she left. She had no children, she had no family, trying to get the money for his organization, for JEP. They do good things. Actually, she did write a will. She left her money to her 6 cats. Cats, C-A-T-S. You know, who's a cat? Meow. She left the money to her cat. She was a little bit eccentric. And the father, legally, he had a good case. He was the next of kin, and I can give the money to the cats. You know, he'll take care of the cats if they want. But, but he said the lawyer's giving him trouble. And if I could come with him to Manhattan to speak to the lawyer, to tell him what a good job they do, it's a good organization, they help kids, you should, don't make trouble. They said, fine, no problem. I guess I said, how much money do you think you're going to get? It's a fine Jewish question, right? How much money? He said, $100,000 they're going for. I said, oh, not bad. Very happy to help. 2 hours later that afternoon, I get a call from a friend of mine in Los Angeles. I just did a big deal of business. I'm sending the yeshiva to $100,000. What did I say? He said $100,000, right? Yeah. I'm sending the yeshiva $100,000. Okay, very nice. No problem. I accepted graciously. Fine. Next day, I got it, FedEx. 2 days later, we went to the lawyer. We're in the car, and it hits me. I said, wow. Chazal say, HaMispal ba'ad chaveri. If you pray for your friend, or you try to help him, and you're in need of the same thing, you're going to be answered first. I said, that's exactly what happened. He asked me to help him get $100,000. I got the $100,000 first. Right? He didn't get it yet. So exactly what Chazal said. The problem is that 3 years went by and he didn't get the money. Anyway, it didn't happen. It was going to happen, still happened. They're still arguing in court, but it didn't happen. And they gave up. They were ready to give up. They said, we're not getting it. I said, no, don't give up. You know why? I can prove to you from the Chazal that you're going to get it. What was the proof? First means, first means there has to be a second.
Right.
Otherwise, you're only, you're not first. Sharp son. Look at that. It's testimony to me how smart I must be if I have such a smart son. Okay, so anyway, so who named Tchila? And they looked at me like I was Meshuggah. What are you talking about? In February 98, 3 years later, to the month, I don't remember the dates, he comes running down. He had an office in the attic of our yeshiva building. He comes running down to me and he says, guess what? The judge signed off on the Yerusha, on the inheritance. What's the first question the Jew asks? How much? Right? He said $250. I said $250,000. That means there must be another $150 that I'm going to get before you get it. And he looked at me. Yeah, you look at a person like he's out of his mind, you know. Anyway. Anyway, yeah, okay. So what happened next? A few days later, I get a call from that same friend. That friend, this guy used to give us thousands of dollars every month, but this was like an extra thing. So this extra thing in my mind was something special that had to do with what I'm discussing with him. He says, remember the yeshiva owes me $155,000 a loan? I'm moichel. I forgive the loan. So I counted, I used my hands, my fingers, and my toes. 150 and 155 is how much? We're not good at math? 255, okay. Not ever get you to it myself. You know? Okay, 255. I go to Shanker and I say, Shanker, there's another 5 out there. And Shanker looks me in the eye like this and says, you're crazy. He was half my age, Shanker. I mean, not half, he was younger than I am. You're crazy. I said, that may be, and it's irrelevant to this conversation. There's another 5 out there. Okay. Next day he comes running down all excited. He says, when the judge signed off on the $250 for them, he signed off from that very Yerusha that I went to help them, for that lady, instead of the cats, another $5,000 for some related kiruv operations. I said, Shanker, let me see the check. Imagine if I'm telling you this story today and I came in with this big check showing you $250,000. It makes a ratio, you know what I mean? Shows me the check. His check says $252,000 and $600. 2,000, so like $2,600 more than $250. I said, what's that? The numbers, my numbers are not exact. He says, oh, the judge was annoyed at them because they wasted so much time and this, so he tacked on a knas. So they had to pay extra. So I said, but I don't like the numbers. What can I do? A week later, I get the printout from my friend's controller, and it turns out we had a mistake. We didn't owe him $155. We owed him $157.5. So we're $100 off. I was meichel $100 on my back pay, and we ended up getting everything because it was meichel before he actually got his money. That's the story. I want to ask you a question. When Hashem taught this Maimer Chazal to Moshe Rabbeinu, that Mispal Bad Chaveru, did he have Shaya Cohen in mind in 1995 to 98? It was just a general. There it says Hashem has everything in mind. So the Torah messages, a personal message to me. Every time I open up a Sefer, every time I open up a Sefer Torah, every time I study, every time I take advantage of any of the directives, the divine directives that are in Torah, Torah Shebechsav and Torah Shemal Peh, they're personalized messages to me from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, from the time that He gave the Torah at Har Sinai. What can be more than that? But then I want to take it just one step further, and I think I will stop. And if you guys have any discussion, conversation, want to disagree with everything I said, be my guest. I'm going to leave. You could disagree with it. No, I'll stick around. So like this, just one more thing. I want to describe to you what happens when I sit down to learn. Sit down to try to understand the piece of Hashem's Torah that He gave at Har Sinai. Number one, it requires my brains. Number two, it requires wisdom to teach me the wisdom. It's very interesting that we say every day in Shemona Esrei, Atochoinein le'odam das, umlamei le'enosh binu. You grant graciously wisdom and insight to a person. That means not that I was born smart, but it's a constant, a constant present tense. Hashem every moment is giving us the wisdom to understand. It's an ongoing gift every minute of my life. Secondly, the Gemara tells us that when we study Torah, Ki Hashem yitein chochma mipiv das usvuna. Hashem gives it, like takes it out of his mouth. And the Gemara says, if a melech has a big feast for his whole community, so to his closest friends, he gives from his private stock. So Hashem teaches me everything that I learn. So look at this. I'm sitting and learning. What's happening? Not only is this a private message from Har Sinai to me from 3,335 years ago, but he's constantly granting me the wisdom to understand because some of the concepts are difficult. And he's teaching it to me. He's moving. He's sitting opposite me. I'm sitting here. He's sitting there. Oh, my son, oh my God. And he's sitting there and he's teaching it to me. Do you know what a personal experience that could be? What an expression of love. When I sit down to study Hashem's Torah, he's giving me ongoing, every minute, the wisdom to understand it, and he's teaching me the lesson. It's so personalized. It's so real. It's just it's a connection of love, and that's why Rashi explains in Shir Shir that the Klal Yisrael, no matter how far they've drifted, and how distant they are from Hashem and from His Torah and His mitzvahs, they say, Yishokeini min shikois piyu. We crave that experience, that expression of love that we felt at Har Sinai. Because that's the greatest pleasure, greater than anything else. And that's why, by the way, Jews can't enjoy this world as much as Goyim do. Because we've been spoiled at Har Sinai with a level of pleasure that we could never replicate in this world. And then Rashi continues and says, there is the possibility of replicating that pleasure. He says, when we are mishtashim b'Torah, when we delight in the Torah, when we recognize in that delight that Hashem is giving us on a constant basis of wisdom and teaching us personally His directives, then it's as if we stood by Har Sinai and we feel that intimate expression of love that Hashem has for the Klal Yisrael. So I hope and pray that we are zoiche on this Shavuos to have a renewed level of commitment to Torah, to have a deepened level of appreciation of that special gift that Hashem has given us, to have a sense of we now have a purpose in life and we have the capability to be happy, because if happiness is feeling good about myself and I know my purpose, I can feel good about myself in a way that I could never replicate with all the pleasures of the world, which make me feel bad about myself because I need all that just to survive. So we have this, Hashem should help, we should be able to connect with His Torah, we should be able to be inspired to commit ourselves and dedicate our lives to the learning and the observance of His mitzvahs, and we will truly find that we can be truly happy, even in a world which seems to be so miserable and so craving for a happiness they never seem to find. Okay, anybody would like